So Bezrat Hashem will continue where the rabbi left off. The rabbi wasn't feeling so well today. So we'll dedicate the shir to Refuah Shlema, Rabbi Ronen ben Siona. Really have a speedy and quick recovery. So we're kind of ending we're in the middle, almost in the middle, actually a little bit more than the middle of the Sefirat HaOmer now. And we're getting to really the pinnacle, I guess, of the Omer, which is called Lag BaOmer, which is going to be this Thursday night. Usually during this time of the Omer, it's a time of avelut, it's a time of mourning, because the Gemara relates that between between really the time of Pesach and Lag BaOmer, really it says Shavuot, but we have a tradition until Lag BaOmer, that the students of Rabbi Akiva passed away. He had 24,000 students, and they all passed away in these 33, some say 34, we'll see in a second, days. And all of this was because they did not give respect to each other, they didn't treat each other with kavod, with honor. And we'll see there's different opinions on that. And they were given one of the most strictest, or the worst kind of death, which is called askara. Askara is an asphyxiation of the trachea of the lungs, and so that they said, the Gemara says it feels like a sword going down your throat, and then like you suffocate. So it's kind of like they say it's the worst type of death. I don't know, I've never done it before. I hope I never do it, but.
Would that be because they were on such a high level, they were held to a higher standard?
So the Maharal brings down that the Iker Chaim, what's considered life in this world, is considered the Torah. The Torah is life. And when one of the explanations of what does it mean that they didn't respect or didn't give honor to each other, it says that they kept the Torah secrets or Torah knowledge that they had to themselves rather than teach it to each other. They kept it a secret. They didn't want to spread it with their friends. And so what you're doing there, if you're saying that Torah is life, and you're trying to keep the life for yourself and not spread the life, so it's like midah keneged midah. Hashem says, oh, you're not going to spread the life, then I'm not going to spread the life with you. And what would you consider is the essence of human life is breath, all right? And so when they weren't using their breath for the right purposes, then Hashem says, okay, give me that breath back. And then He asphyxiated them and caused them to get this serious illness called askara, which is, again, they say it's one of the worst ways to die. And so we, because of this, we take it very seriously these past couple weeks and these next couple days. We'll see. There's a couple opinions actually about it. That we try not to do weddings. We don't listen to music. No dancing. No say shechianu. No trimming of our hairs. That's why we're all with scruffy beards. And really, it comes down to there's three really approaches. The first approach is the Shulchan Aruch, who his approach is when we can stop these days of avelut is up until the 34th day. So it says really the students died of Rabbi Akiva until Pros HaChag. Pros HaChag is usually is 15 days before the Chag. So Chag the Shavuot is on the 6th. If you take 15 days before that, it would be the 19th. So 19th is the 34th day of the Omer. And so and there's a halacha that says once you do a little bit of avelut, it's as if you did the whole day of avelut. So we say a little bit of the 34th day of the Omer, it's like the full 34th day. And so Sfaradim, people who go like the Shulchan Aruch, we hold that the 34th day of the Omer is when everything becomes permitted again. Listening to music, we'll see listening to music though on the 33rd day is also very makel. Everyone has the parties. But with regards to shaving and cutting the hair, the Sfardis, we only cut our hair on the 34th day.
In the 34th day this year on Shabbos?
Is on Shabbos. So we're going to see that that Sfardis are makel. We were lenient, and we are allowed this year to cut our hair on the 33rd day. So this year, all the Sephardim and the Ashkenazis are alike in that sense. But in a general sense, the Shulchan Aruch says that we follow the opinion of Rabbeinu Yeshua ibn Shuib, that he said that really it goes until the 34th, and that's when that's all the halachot of Avelut stop. The Ramah, Rav Moshe Isserliv, he said that the day that they stopped dying was Lag BaOmer, like what we know, Lag BaOmer. And so he says it's not an extra day, it's Lag BaOmer. And so he says the day of Lag BaOmer, this Friday, is when all of the days of Avelut, all the Avelut is over. And so basically the difference between the Shulchan Aruch is whether it's going to be Lag BaOmer or Lag BaOmer. This year it's not so...
So we can cut our hair on Thursday night of this year.
Technically, yes. There's an opinion that says not to get your haircuts at night. More so on like Kabbalistic purposes.
What about shaving?
Shaving also, it's better to do that on Friday morning. Yeah. And so that's the best thing to do. And so then there's a third opinion, which the third opinion is cited by Tosfot, that they say that really it wasn't the time that the students died, it wasn't consecutive, because if you look at it, the first week of the Omer is Pesach. It's the first week is Pesach, and so the students didn't die then. And also he said that they didn't die any days that we didn't recite Tachanun, which means they didn't die on Rosh Chodesh, they did not die on Shabbat. And so if you do all of these calculations, you get left over though 33 days of the Omer, but not consecutive as you would have thought. So he says, really, when does the Avelut, when does it start? You would start the Avelut according to his calculation from Rosh Chodesh Iyar. And so you'll see some people, some Ashkenazis that follow the Tosfot, they'll have a wedding right after Pesach. There was, I think, Rabbi Katz, his daughter had a wedding the week after Pesach. So even though generally, according to the Shulchan Aruch and the Ramah, you wouldn't be able to have a wedding until after Lag or Lag BaOmer, according to this opinion of the Tosfot, you would be able to have a wedding until the Rosh Chodesh Iyar. So again, those are the three kind of principal schools of thought, and really it goes down to Sfardis go until Lag BaOmer, most Ashkenazim go until Lag BaOmer, and then you have a sect of Ashkenazim that follow Tosfot that really they wait till Rosh Chodesh Iyar, and then that goes until Shavuot. So we, like what we said during the Omer, because of this terrible tragedy that occurred, we try not to arrange any weddings, and so we want to make sure that the weddings aren't until after Lag BaOmer or after Lag BaOmer, like we explained. But if it's let's say it's a situation where it's there's extenuating circumstances, and this is going to be the first marriage of the couple, and let's say that the husband has no children, because then he has a mitzvah of provru to bring the children into the world. At that point, there is permission to wed them off even during the Omer. Nonetheless, dancing during the Omer is forbidden. And so even if, let's say, you're at a vort, at an engagement, or at a siyum masechet, you should make sure that you don't dance unless it's for a mitzvah. So
does that mean also from Lag BaOmer to Shavuot, you can't listen to music?
Yes. We're going to get into that. Correct. Until Lag BaOmer, you're allowed to start listening to music again, and that's going to be the next halacha. So again, dancing, unless it's for a mitzvah, like for a bar mitzvah or for a brit, when people are dancing, and let's say there is a wedding, then you would be able to dance at the wedding for the mitzvah of mesamech, of making the chatan and kala happy. In those situations, you are allowed to dance, but to dance happily or not for a celebration of a mitzvah, that wouldn't be allowed. So, like what you said, that also with regards to this period, you're not allowed to listen to music. Really, if you look in the Gemara, there's actually, it says ever since the Beit HaMikdash was destroyed, we really shouldn't listen to music.
At all?
At all, yeah. But nowadays, since we're very not weak, but we hang on to music. Music is a very spiritual thing. Even the Gaon Vilna, the Gra, he said that there's a spiritual aspect to music. One of the Mefarshim say that even at the feast of Achashverosh during Purim, he didn't bring any musicians because he said he wanted to be completely void of kedusha, void of holiness, and so he didn't want even if they were just playing a harp or something small like that. That was enough to instill holiness in them, and so he was like, no, we're not going to do that. So we see that there's a high level to music, and so but the Gemara says that really after the destruction of the Beit HaMikdash, we really shouldn't. But nowadays we have the custom to listen to music. There's no issue of that, except during this period of Sefirat HaOmer, where we stray away from music and songs. Now, there is a permissibility, there is leniency with regards to a cappella, that there's no instruments in the background. And so if there is an a cappella that's being sung, technically you're allowed to listen to it. Now you have to be careful because nowadays the a cappella, they get with all the technology that there is nowadays, you're able to make the a cappella sound much like instruments themselves. So depending on how far that goes, depends on the permissibility. I mean, if you can't tell the difference between a cappella and a regular song with instruments, then probably that's not a song you're allowed to listen to. And also you'll see that at least most of the Jewish a cappella for nowadays, it should be more sad music. It shouldn't really be happy, upbeat music, because again, that's not the spirit of these 3 weeks, or 3.5 weeks, right? 4 weeks, right? 4.5 weeks. That we because we were trying to mourn for these students of Rabbi Akiva. Now, if there is, for example, a Pidyon Ben or a Brit Milah or a Bar Mitzvah, at that point you would be able to play music. It's permissible because, again, it's for a mitzvah celebration, for either whatever it might be, the Brit Milah, and so even if it's a completion of a tractate of the Talmud, you would be able to have music there. If a woman is depressed and then she would need music, we do give leniency for that. Similarly, we give leniency for children, for example, in kindergarten or nurseries, where they kind of need the music to relax the children, to kind of get them back into place or to get them focused. That is allowed as well. If someone is a music teacher, if let's say he would be losing a lot of money from not going ahead and teaching the classes during these days, he's allowed to. That's just because otherwise, how is he going to be able to support his family? Also, so in these days, we try not to say the blessing of Shechianu. But nonetheless, it is permissible to recite the blessing of Shechianu over a new fruit during the days of the Omer. So if someone hasn't eaten any of this fruit until now, he should say the blessing of Shechianu, or just try to stay away from reciting the blessing. So we try to refrain from doing activities that would necessitate that blessing.
One quick question on that.
Yes.
So, don't you do the blessing of the trees like before the end of the month of Nisan?
Yes.
And that also, isn't there a Shechianu with that?
Is there Shechianu on that?
thought there was. Maybe a month, but I thought there was for some reason. Because you're doing it for the first time for the year, aren't you?
I'm not sure because the blessing itself is. Where is that? It's here now. I don't remember. Do we? Let me just double check that.
I can look it up and we can talk about it in a second when I find it.
Yeah. Where is that? It should be. Oh, here, 8:20. Let's see. No, there's no Shechianu here. There's just the blessing of שלא חיסר בעולמו כלום וברא בו בריאות טובות ואילנות טובות לענות בהם בני אדם. Yeah, there's no Shechianu, so yeah, then there's no Shechianu, so yeah. Okay.
Okay, sounds good, thank you.
Yeah. So because of this, we generally say that it's best to refrain from wearing new garments during these days, since usually when you wear a new garment and you get joy from it, you should say the blessing of Shechianu. If it is necessary for Shabbat or for a mitzvah celebration, and the person gets a lot of joy when wearing the garment, he should go ahead and say the blessing of Shechianu. So the basic rule is best to try avoiding situations in which you have to say Shechianu, but if you are in a situation where you would need to say it, you would say it. It's the time period doesn't exempt you from that blessing. Haircuts, like what we said, we refrain from haircuts. Sfardis until the 34th day of the Omer, Ashkenazi until the 33rd day of the Omer. This year, 34th being Shabbat, so Sfardis we bring it back to the 33rd for the honor of Shabbat as well. So everyone gets to shave on the 33rd day of the Omer this year, which is this Friday. This is only applicable to men, so women and children, they were allowed to shave this whole period. And so, not only, cutting hairs, right?
Do you allow to listen to music too?
When?
All these the first 3 days.
So women know. Children, if they get to the age of knowledge that they understand what's happening, we refrain them. Again, if the children needed to focus or they needed in order to relax, calm them down, then there is room for leniency on that. But unless there's extenuating circumstances, for example, if a woman lives alone and she needs the music to keep her from depression, then we allow it. So we said with regard to haircuts, not allowed until the 33rd, 34th day of the Omer. That is also with regards to shaving. So shaving, there's more room for leniency with shaving, but we also, in the sense that there are a lot of different opinions. Some say Rosh Chodesh Iyar, you can shave following the ruling of Rabbeinu David ben Zimra, that he said it's allowed to shave on Rosh Chodesh Iyar. So there's a lot of and then there's a lot of different opinions. Some say you can shave every evening, every Friday before Shabbat. Again, with regards to shaving, there's more leniency. The main commandment or the main law was really with regards to the hair, and we leave the hair growing. Nevertheless, the Gemara already talks about the beard, that we should really go ahead and try keeping the beard and the mustache. They say it's very good for parnasah. It's the Rav Chaim Kanievsky was a very big proponent of leaving the beard and the mustache, but sometimes you have to shave for a job, for your wife, whatever it may be, and so that also we give the full permission also 33rd, 34th with the haircuts.
So, Rabbi Kanievsky, the beard,
He was very
round or just for the
year round. He said he called it the Gemara calls it hadrat panim, hadras panim. He says it's the light essence. It's the main source of blessing. Really comes from the beard, especially with regards to Kabbalists. You'll see a lot of the Kabbalists. They have their long beards. Why? Because the beard is really the source of all the blessings. And so, as if you can, again, you are able to, but of course, being in an American society and shlom bayit, you want to make sure that you're not stepping over someone else's feet or even hurting yourself in the process. So that's with regards to shaving. So haircut, shaving from 33rd, 34th day, permissible. Trimming of the fingernails. So we don't hold that there's any issue with trimming the fingernails and the toenails, both during this the 33, 34 days or after. So it's been permissible, and it will still be permissible.
Is it recommended not to cut it?
It's recommended to cut it. It's recommended to cut it.
The fingernails?
Yes. It says a lot of negative energies, negative forces stick onto the fingernails. And also it brings into halachic issues with regards to washing of the hands. When, let's say, someone gets dirt there and they don't want the dirt to be there, it gets to an issue of chatzitza. It's chatzitza. And so someone could be doing natilat yadayim and they're saying a blessing, and really they're saying a blessing in vain, because they didn't do the washing of the hands in the correct manner. So it's recommended to cut the fingernails, both Kabbalistically and halachically. It brings problems. Some Kabbalists, and some, I guess, ideas in Kabbalah, they say they leave the hair and the beard until Shavuot. So they say it has nothing. Their stance is not so much to do with the mourning process. It's more so to do with the energies of these days, and that they come into, because they say that the cutting of the hair is the fixing of the body, and so in this time period we haven't really fixed our bodies yet until Shavuot, when we're ready to get the Torah, and that's when we've really, because again, all of these days of the Omer is working on ourselves to become better people in order so that we can receive the Torah as humans, as a man, right, and not as slaves, not as animals. And so for them, the main time to cut and shave would be the day before Shavuot. So the Erev Shavuot. Again, that's a stringency on their part. And so if you're not a Kabbalist and you don't understand that, I would recommend not to wait that long. And so that and let's say if the year was a Shavuot would fall on a Sunday, then if the previous day was a Saturday, then they would be able to cut their hair on the Friday. Fine. So if someone is so we have another kind of custom is to some people would say that there's issue with moving into a new house or doing the Chanukhat Bayit, but we say no, there's no issue with that. It's permissible to move into a new house during the Omer period. You don't have to wait until after Lag BaOmer. If you need to paint or plaster a house, it's permissible. And then you can also do a Chanukhat Bayit, the inauguration of the house during this period. Again, it's not an issue, especially if it's being done in Israel itself, because there's a mitzvah to make sure that you go and buy a house and live in Israel. The last kind of halachot of this Omer process is Lag BaOmer itself. And so Lag BaOmer itself is a day that we usually celebrate the ending of the 24,000 students of Rabbi Akiva. And it said on this day he went ahead and, since now he had no more students, he had to rebuild the world of Torah. And in order to do that, he took 5 students. And from those 5 students, he was able to reestablish the whole world of Torah. And one of these students was Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai. Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai later in his life would get persecuted by the Roman government. And the Gemara relates that he was in a cave for 12 years. And then when he was ready to leave the cave because the decree on his death had passed, he went out and saw someone working on Shabbat. And he was, so dumbfounded. He said, how can someone work on Shabbat? He looked at the guy and he burnt to ashes, died with a pile of bones. And so Hashem said, Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai, it was really Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai and his son, Rabbi Elazar. He told him, go back to the cave, go back to where you were studying, and go learn there another 12 months, another year. To understand, right now you guys are on such a high level, you guys need to understand and learn how to bring yourselves back into, modern society back then. And so after those 12 months, they went back into society. And Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai says, he says on himself that if him, his son, and Yotam, which was one of the kings, he was a very humble king. He said if those 3 would get together and deliberate, they would be able to atone for all the sins of mankind that was and will be, and bring Mashiach right there and then. So that's the power of Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai, his son, and Yotam HaMelech. Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai said that if there were 1,000 tzaddikim in the whole world, him and his son were one of them. If there were 100, him and his son were one of them. If there were 2, there would be him and his son. Meaning they were on such a high level that they completely separated themselves from this world, and they lived in a microcosm of Gan Eden during those 12 years. Although the Gemara relates that don't think that they were living in in paradise. The Gemara relates that after he came back into civilization, his father-in-law, Pinchas ben Yair, Rabbi Pinchas ben Yair, saw him in the mikveh one time, and he saw his whole back was scratched and cracked from being. He didn't get he didn't have any showers there. They were sitting in the mud most of the time, and so he started to cry. His father-in-law started to cry. He said, it's so sad that I have to see you like this. You suffered so much. And so Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai told him, you should say thank you that you see me like this. Because you can't, the Torah isn't something that you can get from an inheritance. It's not something you can buy. It's not something, he said, you have to really put your life force into it. The Gemara says that you have to die over the Torah. And that's what they did. And what came out of this is probably one of the most popular books, and really a big sect of what Judaism has to offer, is the Zohar and the Kabbalah, really the hidden aspects of the Torah. And that all came really from Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai. It says he had a group of 9 students. His son was one of them, and then another 8. And they would deliberate the secrets of the Torah. And it was all recorded in the Zohar. Rabbi Abba, who was also known in the Gemara as Rav, would be the one to write it all down. And he wrote down the whole Zohar and said on the last day of his life, he spoke over the Idra Zutra, which is one of the parts of the Zohar, and over there it said that he wanted to make sure that he was saying it. He said the whole book, so he kept talking to the whole book. It said that the sun kind of stood, It didn't set. It didn't want to set because it wanted Rabbi Shimon to make sure that he finished the whole book in order before he had to pass away. And so on this day is we commemorate the Yortzeit, the passing of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, which was this day on Lag BaOmer. And so even though it's for example, on a day, for example, like Moshe Rabbeinu, we fast on this day. We celebrate. It's a happy, joyous day because also not only it says that tzaddikim were born and passed away on the same day, so we can say he was born on this day, but he also passed on this day, and the day that he passed was also a day that they brought a lot of light into the world by finishing the Zohar, like we just said. And so it's an admirable custom to go ahead. They light bonfires because fires, the Torah is considered like fire. Pasuk says esh dat lamo, it's like a fire. And the greatness of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai was that he was able to bring this hidden aspect of the Torah into light. And the big custom of Am Yisrael is to go to his grave during this time, to Meron.
Where is it at?
Meron. It's in Tzfat. It's a place it's a city called Meron in Israel. I think it's close to Tzfat. And so over there, it's usually before when was it? 5 years ago. Before 5 years ago, it was a very big custom. Everyone would go. It would take you probably a day to get there. So you'd have to leave the day before in order to get there. At that time, all the buses would be going there. They would just be packed. And then I think it was 5 years ago now, there was a tragedy there that there was like a stampede, and I think 30-something people passed away because there were so many people and just chaos, crushed. And so nowadays they're more security, everything's a little bit more. It's more constricted. You have to make sure they don't want to have this kind of tragedy again. And so I think it's a little harder to get into Meron. Nonetheless, we have access to his grave, him and his son's graves, and it's always a good idea to get there, even if it's not on Lag BaOmer. And so another big custom, there's a couple customs, but another big custom that we have on this day is that we usually do the boys, if a boy turned 3, close to that time, we do his haircut at Meron on Lag BaOmer or on Lag BaOmer itself, for that there's a basis, I guess, with regards to Lag BaOmer specifically. Lag BaOmer is 3-3, and we know that usually you have to wait 3 years before you can cut the boy's hair, or like we learned last week's parsha, that you have to wait 3 years before you can enjoy from the fruit of the tree. That's called Ola. And similarly, we take the first 3 years of the child, and we don't cut his hair, and we wait until the 3rd year, and then we go ahead and do that. They really break these days into two kind of sections. You have the first section, which we kind of explained as the kind of the days of somber, the days that where the the students of Rabbi Akiva passed away, and then starting from the 33rd day onward is days of happiness. And they explain this as really two kind of sections. If you look at the first section, it's actually 32 days, right? Because the 33rd day starts the next section. So the first 32 days is these days of somber, these days of mourning. And then starting from the 33rd day onward is these happier days. And so if you, starting from the 33rd day until the end of until Shavuot, it comes out 17 days, and 17 is also the gematria of Tov, good, Tov. So Tov is good, 17, and that means there's 17 days left. And one of the explanations is that the 32 is Lev, right? Lamed Bet in the Gematria is Lev, 32, and then you have Tov. You have Lev and then Tov. So the first 32 days really is to work on ourselves. Avelut is when you're an Avel, when someone's a mourner, you have to do more introspection. Usually when someone passes away, the family, close ones, they do more introspection. They start to look over what they did right, what they did wrong. Mortality starts to seep up on them. And how do we do that? We have been studying for the past couple of weeks Pirkei Avot, and in Pirkei Avot, if you look at some of the topics there, it kind of brings you back into perspective of things. And one of the Mishnahot is like, if you remember 3 things, you'll never come to sin. Where you came from, meaning you came from a putrid drop. Where you're going to a place of maggots and dirt, and that everything is being recorded. So, if you think you're safe, don't worry, no one's safe. And so the first 32 days are days of really introspection, working on our midot, and that last 17 days, Tov. Yes, there are days of introspection, but now we start to place it into more work. It's more of a preparation for the Shavuot. We already see the end goal ahead of us. Usually, when you're running, you would think that the last lap is usually your slowest, but you'll see with the runners, the last lap is usually the fastest. They put the most energy out in the last lap. So now this last 17 days, this is considered like the last lap, and we need to really focus on making sure that when we're coming to receive the Torah on Shavuot, it's something also all of the sages bring, that a one-time event isn't a one-time event. When we got the Torah on Shavuot 3,000 something years ago, it wasn't a one-time event. It's being renewed. The world is like a circle. It's cyclical. We see that with the year, and so the same powers that happened at Har Sinai on Shavuot are going to be emanating again this Shavuot, and so that means we have the power to harness them and bring them into our lives. And so these 49 days, you'll see the Shavuot is the only holiday that it's not doesn't give it a specific day of the year. It's not like Pesach, which is the 15th day of Nisan. Not like Purim, which is the 14th or the 15th if it's a walled city, right? Not like Hanukkah, which is the 25th. Really, in the Torah, there's no set date for Shavuot. What is Shavuot? Like the word Shavuot means, it means weeks. It means 7 weeks. Count 49 days, 7 weeks, until you get to the 49th day, this after the 7 weeks, and then the next day is going to be Shavuot, which means that Shavuot itself, and we see even Halachot Shavuot, there's only one seif. It brings very, very little. The Shulchan Aruch brings very little on the holiday of Shavuot in and of itself, because the idea of Shavuot is not necessarily the day itself, it's the preparation for the day. And this is a big thing in Judaism in and of itself, is the preparation of whatever it may be is usually bigger than the event itself. And that's why you'll see with like a bar mitzvah boy, we're not celebrating necessarily that his bar mitzvah, it's the preparation he's done to become a bar mitzvah. The year that he's spent learning the parsha is brought out when he reads the parsha. And that's the same thing with a yortzeit, or with the death, right, of someone. He's coming to his end. And for example, for Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai, we're not necessarily celebrating his death, we're celebrating the accomplishments that he was able to achieve that, I guess, ended with his death. And because of that, we see with Judaism, it's always about the journey. It's not just the destination, it's also the journey.
We're celebrating his life.
We're celebrating his life. Yeah, exactly. And so with regards to Shavuot, it's the same idea, that with Shavuot, the holiday of Shavuot is, yes, we got the Torah, but it's also the process of getting them. Like what we said on Pesach, Ilu higenu lahar Sinai velo kibel et Torah dainu. Even if we got to Mount Sinai, but Hashem didn't give us the Torah, that would have been enough. Now, what do you mean that would have been enough? The whole idea of coming out of Mitzrayim was to get the Torah. You're telling me that if we got to they would have been like, yeah, it's fine. I mean, after the fact, I can tell you, it would have been fine. We wouldn't have had all these 613 commandments and all these. But back then, this is what they were anticipating. What do you mean, Dainu, that it would have been enough? It means that it says that the level that they got to at Matan Torah, that they were able to purify themselves to such a great extent that at the time of the giving of the Torah, they were at the level of Adam HaRishon before the sin. They were able to get to the same level that Adam got to before he sinned with the tree of knowledge. And just getting to that level was such a great accomplishment. We at that point we said if we didn't get the Torah, that would have also been good, because again we're looking at this process as not necessarily a destination thing. It's more of a process. And so with this last leg in the Omer process, these last 12 days, we should really take a hold of them. If we're usually studying, let's say, one chapter of Pirkei Avot, it's very opportune actually. They have a Mishnah Yomi. A Mishnah Yomi is you learn 2 Mishnayot every day. And today we started Masechet Pirkei Avot. So today we're starting Masechet Pirkei Avot. So you can do, you guys, yeah.
You're not getting ready to go read it in a minute.
Yeah, so it worked out perfectly. So now, people who are learning the Mishnah Yomi, we're going to start Pirkei Avot. We're going to start learning all the ethics of the fathers, which is really the main thing. It says that one of the Mishnayot is Derech Eretz Kadma LeTorah. That Derech Eretz, all of the practical laws, all of these making the ethics, it has to come before the Torah. It has to be a basis. It has to be a foundation for the Torah, because once you're a good person, then you're able to build on that the Torah, the goodness of the Torah, because the Gemara says that the Torah, it can be a sam chaim or sam mavet. It could be a medicine elixir of life, or it can be an elixir of death. And it really depends on who uses it, right? A gun can be either something that saves a person or that kills a person, depending on who's using the gun. Torah is no different. And that's why we made to make sure first that we're good people, and that's why we're learning Pirkei Avot, and afterwards we'll be able to use the Torah to bring this whole world back to its tikkun, bring us closer to Hashem. And Mizrat Hashem will be meriting the Beit HaMikdash this year and Mashiach. Amen.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.